Hello coders, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, good morning perhaps. I'm going to be working today on the course notes for Docker for beginners. It's a course that I've created. I created ages ago, but I want to update the course notes. I was going to work on that PHP login course thing, but unfortunately I haven't managed to get parallels working on my stream machine here. So I'm going to spend the weekend playing with that. Hopefully we'll have something to do with that next week. And the reason why I need to get parallels running, of course, is because I want to test the course with Windows. Because we don't have parallels running, I can't test the course, so that's why we've shifted. Now we're going to do some course notes for the Docker for Beginners course, and the one I'm going to be working through is I've got no idea why I haven't been able to get parallels running. It is running, it's the WSL2 just isn't behaving. I'm not a Windows person, so I'm probably doing things wrong, and I thought rather than rush it, I'll give myself a bit of time this weekend to do it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have some of that goodness next week. So anyway, I have done, let's just go through all of this. I've done the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth. These are all lesson 7. Hang on a minute. 6 and 7. These are looking rather similar. Hang on. Docker container users. That's wrong, isn't it? That's immediately wrong. Docker container name run. Oh. Helps if... number 7. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's CP. That is changing the user or running a container with a different user. Okay, so that's cool. They're good. Number 8 is exposing container ports. For example, -p, blah, 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 blah. And then this is, port web server. That is correct, right? It's not ports. I think that is correct. Let me just spin up the documentation here. I'm doubting myself now. Docker... I should be able to just do this in the terminal, actually. Give me a sec whilst I spin all this up. What container? Let's bring this down here for a minute. What containers do I have? Docker PS. We got a bunch of stuff. Aha. Okay, that's cool. So let's see if that is the right command. Docker port, no plural, and we're going to go for something like that. Yes, that is the right command. In fact, that is a good example of port 80 on here. To see the exposed ports, run the of a container, run Docker port container name. In this example, Docker port web server. Right, and up here we've said -td name web server -p 8080, which would give us the same deal as that. Okay, cool. So yeah, we could do that, couldn't we? Let's just move that over to there. Let's bring that out so I can actually have a little bit more room to play with. In this example, Docker. In this example, run Docker. Okay, fine. This should return a similar output to the following. 1, 2, 3. Oops, no, I'm not on that. Using different keyboard. And it is... It's that. Cool. All right. So that's that's right. Number 9. Have I done 9? Haven't done 9. Need to do that. That's container host names. Number 10 is handling volumes, and number 11 is persisting data. Okay, so we've got what, 1, 2, 3 to go. Okay, fine. Let's work through container host names. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get all 3 of them done, but by my dinner time. But I will prevail. I will try as hard as I can. Sorry, chat. Oh, hey, Oliver. Sorry about that. Happy New Year, everyone. Yes. And hi, Martin. Thank you for joining as well. Yes. So, container host names. So these are all this documentation all kind of goes with or relates to one of the lessons that I've created on YouTube. So for each one of these there is a tutorial, and this one here, container host names, would be something like, oh, I wish I kept my tabs. Bring that over here. Let's go to let's go to my channel and go to playlists, and it would be, what's this? This is Docker for Beginners course, right? So this would be in here we go. Docker container course. Let's just kill that. Osh, 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 shush. So this would be number 8, right? Exposing container ports. So that would be somewhere. Here we go. So I am gonna just pause that. I'm gonna turn the sound down. Woo! And I'm just gonna play it for a bit. Keep skipping ahead. I just want to see what commands I was doing whilst I was running this. So I've done docker ps and then docker images. Fine. So here I'm probably explaining that I've got no images, no containers. Docker run. What am I doing? Docker run. What was the arguments that I gave? Docker run help. I am looking at docker run -t, so doing it, giving the tty and doing it d, so it's in the background. Name web server -p, so that's the ports. That's what we did last time. I'm creating an image. Fine. Come on. There is a point in which I change the host name. Document root. Okay, so that's Apache. Docker machine IP. Why am I doing all this stuff when I want to just change the host name? So I've created a web server, fine. Hello world. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. That's tutorial 8, exposing container ports. That is the host name. That's confusing. Why is that number 9 then in that number? Oh, forgive me. I'm looking at the wrong tutorial. Ugh, silly. Sorry. Let's spin through all this. So Docker run IT Ubuntu bash yada yada yada. We all know what's going on. Here we go. H is changing the host name. Test.local. That's the Ubuntu image. We're now running in as bash. So that should give us a, yes, root at test. So that's how you change the host name. And did I explain that in terms of like, this is the help documentation to do all this, or did I go straight into it? I reckon I went straight into it, right? Docker run. Yeah, I went straight. Oh no, there was a help. Oh, and I did go down to H, hostname. Right, so there's both the hyphen, the shorter version and the longer version. Okay, so let's get rid of you and then do to change the hostname of a container. Use the -h or, and we'll do this in backticks, use the -h or the host name argument when running a container. Can't spell argument. There's going to be a lot of things today where I spell things wrong, so okay, so to change the host name of a container use the h or the hostname argument to change the host name of. Yeah, okay, fine. So then I give that an example. So I'll do the same. For example, to change the host name to ABC, run the following. Or, for example, to create a container with the host name ABC, run the following. And it is bash, and then it is, what are we doing? Docker run -it -h, and we've gone ABC, Ubuntu bash. Okay. In this example, a container will be created with the host name ABC, a Ubuntu container. Ubuntu contain example. In this example, a Ubuntu container will be created with the host name ABC. Okay, fine. Anything else? Oh, I had a look at my host entry file. Oh, yes. Okay, that's a good. So we're now in the container because we did IT. I don't know what I'm talking about here. I'm just waving this about. Cat, and we're going into etc hosts to look at the host file, and we can see that we have our local host set to test.local. Sweet. All right, cool. Okay. So actually, we've got root at test. Now that's .local. The .local will not be there. So we would have root at ABC in our example. So in this example, a Ubuntu container will be created with the hostname ABC. Okay. This container will be running bash, and we'll have a similar and the terminal will have a similar output. 1, 2, 3 bash, and it will be something like root at ABC :/ boom. Okay, then I can talk about getting into the host file. Okay. So changing the host name of a container, or no, I shouldn't say changing, because changing implies that the container is already running. Setting a host name of a container will also set the will also correctly alter the host file. Right. To check this, run the following. Actually, I can just do this in single lines, can't I? So this would be cat and then etc host. There we go. So now I'm not going to print all that out, but we can see that localhost is pointed to test.local. So in this case, it would be something like so setting a host name of a container will also correctly alter the host file. To check this, run the following. So cat etc host. We can just button that up there. Let's put that on a new line. To check this, run the following. 1, 2, 3 bash, and we're gonna do something like our localhost 127.0.0.1. Oops, they're not correct. 0.0.1, that's localhost. I will do other entries. Entries. Can't spell anything today. And then we've got the container name, well, the container IP. So in this case, it will be 17. I should really just do this just to be easier to copy. 0.2. That's the IP of the container, which obviously will be different for everyone. And then that would be ABC, and then ABC, because that's test.local.test. Test.local and then test, yeah. Okay, so I should also put, to check this, run the following. Other entries. And then please note your container IP will be different. Okay, so there we go. That's localhost, and then that's the IP of the container. That's the host name that we've been given. Okay, so there's that. Hey, we got the spammer. Let's get rid of that. Boom. See, this is what happens when I don't pay attention to the old chat. You, sir, have been reported again. Every time I stream, I seem to get that spammer. Please note your container IP will be different. Okay, I think, let's just see how that's formatted, but I think that's good. So to change the host name of a container, use the -f. What am I talking about? It's been a long day. To change the host name of a container, use the -h or the -- host name argument when running a container. For example, to create a container with the host name of, not to, let's change that. In this example, okay, no, up here. For example, to create a container with the host name of, there we go. So, for example, to create a container with a host name of ABC, run the following: docker run -it-h abc ubuntu bash. In this example, or I could just say, to simplify that, I could just go this will create a Ubuntu container with the host name ABC. Okay, forward stop. This container will be a running bash, and the terminal will have a similar output. Fine. Setting a host name of a container will also alter the host file of that container, or will also alter the container's host file. There we go. I mean, it's a bit obvious this, but to check this, run the following: cat etc host, and then that is the local host, and that is the IP of the thing, and then that's the host entries. I guess that is good. I mean, there's not much to talk about there other than that. I mean, that's just how to change the host file. I haven't gone into any depth, have I? I'm just talking about Docker PS. I don't know why I'm doing this. We seem to have come out of that shell. Do Docker start, Docker I, Docker bash. Why have I done Docker IT? Okay, interactive, fine. Anything else? I seem to have just not... Oh, I've seemed to have just stopped there. Okay, we're starting that. And then we're going into... Oh, I'm just demonstrating that once you exit out of the container... There we go. Once you exit out the container, and so you stop the container. Once you go back into the container, your host file, your host entry is the same. So up there, I changed it to test, right? So test and test. Cool. So that's that done. Boom. All right, moving on to number 10, handling volumes. Get rid of you. So let's go to number 10, handling volumes. Again, close the... don't need to worry about that. I think I need to remove this whilst these adverts are showing, because even though this is showing my own content, I think I will be demonetized. All right, so what are we doing here? We are creating Docker PS, got some containers. We are creating a... is that a data volume I'm creating here? IT name test... Oh, yeah, I'm creating a volume. I'm creating a volume, and that is Docker vid data, colon, and then that is going to be Docker vid data. All right, so that's going to be data within the container. That's going to be the path that is on the host machine. So V is going to create ourselves a it looks like, yeah, that's a bind mount. It's going to create a bind mount from the host machine because the bind mount, because that is a relative path. See, if there wasn't a relative path there, and if it didn't have any backslash or slashes, so it was just data, that would create a Docker volume, but we're not doing that. I wonder if I mean, this is 25 minutes long, so I wonder if I talk about that later. Docker IT, fine. Ooh, I'm going through some help documentation here, so thanks, Oliver. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is just like a bot or something. Okay, so that looks like I'm creating a bind mount. No, not a bind mount, a Docker volume now, because see, that's not a path to the machine. So that's the difference with that. So now I've got data in here. Can you see? Data is there. Although that probably is a bad... I probably shouldn't have called it data, to be fair. And then Docker volume ls to actually show the Docker volume. So these are Docker volumes, not bind mounts. So I did bind mounts first. Okay. So then Docker run. Another Docker volume. Oh, this is demonstrating that I've created a new container called test3, and I'm using this, and I'm connecting it to the same. Oh yes, okay, yes, I see now. So if I scroll back a wee bit, this is test2. So I've created a Docker mount, a Docker volume, and what I'm doing is I'm saying that there's nothing in this yet, and I'm in this container test2. And what I'm doing is I am demonstrating that the Docker volume is created, and I should now go into this container with test2, CDing into the data, and then touching a new file. So that should... Oh, I've removed it. Why did I do that? Docker rm remove. Oh, right. Yeah, so back here, what I'm doing is... So that's the volume. So somewhere I've gone and created... Here we go. I've touched a new file, test1.txt, inside our data volume, which is connected obviously to this container. And then what I'm doing here, so I've come out of the container and now I'm removing test2, and I think what I'm going to do now is create a new container called test3, and we're going to blah blah blah, words fail me. We're going to connect the Docker volume, there we go, called data, which is the Docker volume that we've got here, to this mount point in the container. And I'm then going to go inside. Yeah, I'm doing docker run it, so we'll go in as bash, and I guess what I'm going to do if I is go into our CD directory and then do an ls, and then that is a demonstration that we can share data or files, persisted storage, from one container to the next. Even if the container is removed, the files are still stored in our Docker volume, which means that when we create a new container and we mount the Docker volume, we can still access that file. Now what am I doing now? I am going into, oh yeah, so we appear to have removed that data volume, docker rm. So what's the next thing I do? We're creating a new container called master. Don't know why. Oh, we're creating a backup. Oh yeah, so that's demonstrating that we can do more than one. Okay, so that's -v backup, and -v logs. Okay, so we can see that we've got that. And what I'm doing there, somewhere, if I go back a bit, sorry. Yeah, we're creating some new files within those. So that's a tar, and I guess that's a .log. Yep. Okay, cool. And then we are, what are we doing? Creating a slave, and we're using Docker, we're using volumes from master. Okay, right. So that's going to attach all the volumes from the master container to our slave container. Got it. So if I do a ls now, we have our backup and our logs. So that's sort of a quick way of saying I want all the volumes that are associated or attached to that container. I want all of them, and I want to attach them as well to this container called slave. There we go. So creating a new container called slave1 with all of the attached volumes of master. I want them all on slave1 as well. Okay, cool. So yeah, you can see that we've got two containers, master and slave, and they all have the volumes connected. So if we did docker volume, then we've got our, not sure why that came out as, did I spell that wrong when I did that? Oh yeah, I did docker volume and then docker volume ls. Right, fine. Anything else? That looks like a docker inspect. Yes, a docker inspect. And that is showing that the mounts are in play. So we have our destination. Oh, sorry. Dear. There we go. Sorry about that. So yes, that's showing that we have our mount points. So we have our mounts. The name is backup and the log name is logs. These are the Docker volume names. These are the source. This is the actual physical path on the host machine actually. So mnt sda1 var lib docker volumes backup underscore data, and you'll see that they follow the same convention, apart from the name is different. So backup there and logs there. That's why you can only use certain patterns for these Docker volumes. So if I was to have a Docker volume that had a slash in it, then that would become a bind mount, not an actual Docker volume. And then we can do all sorts of different things. Like, for instance, I don't think I've mentioned it in the video here, but we've got different like local with different drivers. If you wanted to use different drivers for things like S3 and all of that jazz, there are drivers available. And I don't know why I pressed back. That's silly of me. Damn it. Let's get back to wherever it was. Too many buttons on this mouse. Yeah, here's the... Oh yeah, and then here is looking at the Docker volume inspect of backup. So this is inspecting the actual volume rather than inspecting the container. So yeah, that's just an easier way of looking at that piece of JSON. And I think that was it. Right, so now I need to write that up. Ugh. Oh, that sounds ace, Oliver. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Drupal TDD, yeah. Anything with TDD has my my thumbs up. Yeah, I've been thinking about like how to the content that we sometimes create, whether it's a blog or whether it's a talk or whether it's a video, how you can actually channel that into different mediums. So a talk, for instance, is is something that could be videoed anyway, so that becomes your video. But also the notes of that talk, because you know I've given talks and stuff before. You've given far more than I have, but when you do a talk, of course, you have your own notes, which could be used as a blog. So there's a lot of like overlap, I think, with the things that we do, especially in the educational world. So where a blog article could come from speaker notes, and then the talk could come up with you could have a video off the back of that talk. I know that I've done in the past. I've used Twitch as a means of giving my talk before actually giving the talk. So, and then using the feedback from the audience on Twitch through chat as to certain parts to remove and all of that stuff. So you're actually doing it live, which is something that you would do anyway in terms of like practicing. So when I did some of the talks ages ago, I would do it first on Twitch, just to get a feel for it as well. And obviously you've got the chat, which will help you out. But it was good for things like timing, and also if you were to do anything where you had to click around and press the keyboard whilst you're doing like a live demo, but maybe it was a good way to practice that. But no, I haven't done any talks in yonks. Something I would love to do again. But hey, I have tickets to PHP UK. Yeah, it's the first time I'm going to go there. First time I've been. Never been to PHP UK. Never been. And I just thought, get in there, early bird. Usually what happens, of course, is whenever the the conference tickets come up, I leave them to the last minute, and then the early bird prices just go, and yeah, it becomes a bit too expensive. So and it's the same with all the other conferences. I'm an ahhing about it, but this year I thought, no, I'm gonna actually do it. I'm gonna actually do it. We've had too long without actually seeing people. So in this community, for me at least. So I would like to have a little bit more involvement, at the very least being on the sidelines at least, but just having the conversations that you get at these conferences and these user groups is something that I definitely miss. It's the conversations that you have with people at these conferences or at these user groups, where you're not actually talking about the talk. It's the conversations that you would have perhaps in the corridors, or oops, I've just kicked the chair. Ouch. Or in the corridors, or before the talk, or at lunch, or I find those fascinating. It's just sort of like I definitely miss the human element of coding sometimes. Anywho, enough of that. Let's do this. So we need to talk about, there's various things. We need to talk about Docker volumes, and we need to talk about bind mounts, and we need to talk about inspections of containers and volumes. So there's 3 things. So I think I might structure this. So we've got Docker volumes, we got bind mounts, and I think we did bind mounts first. So let's do that. Yeah, we did bind mounts first. And then, whoops, we did, so how to inspect volume configuration. And let's change these to how to. So how to create a bind mount. How to create a Docker volume. All right, so yes. So, oh yeah, there was another thing as well. There was it before? I think it was before, wasn't it? It was how to attach volumes from another container. There we go. 4 things, man. Whew. How to create bind mounts. Okay, so Docker. Okay, so to create a bind mount. So let's talk about what a bind mount is. Actually, let's do that before any of this. So let's do types of Docker volumes. Okay, there are 2 types of Docker volumes. The first is a Docker bind mount. Okay, this is a mount. This is a direct mount from the host machine to the container. All right. First is Docker bind mount, which is a direct mount from the host machine to the container. The second type, the second type of the second is a Docker volume, which is a, how do we explain what Docker volume is in a sentence? The second is a Docker volume, which is a, because it's part of the Docker, it's a Docker object. Man, I don't want to pull on that thread. So it's a Docker object that can be shared amongst containers, and its space is stored within the Docker file system. So you have in the Docker world, there is a portion of the wherever Docker's stored on your hard drive that is given to Docker volumes, which is what was shown on the inspect command. So the path was the path to the Docker volume space, if you will. So the second is a Docker volume, which is I don't know how to word this. I might have to have a look at the old documentation just to see how they've done it, because I don't want to get it wrong, of course. Docker.com. And let's go to the docs. Let's guides. Is there a search in here? Yes, there is. Docker volume. Okay, Docker volume. So the client and daemon API. Okay, that doesn't actually explain. That doesn't. No, that's not what I'm after here. All right. What? Right, that might give us a little bit more guidance. Volumes are the preferred mechanism for persisting data generated by and used by Docker containers, while bind mounts are dependent on the directory structure and operating system of the host machine. Volumes are completely managed by Docker. Volumes have several advantages over bind mounts. Now, we're not going to go in any depth like this. I just wanted a comparison, so to speak. The difference between E and mount. Okay, yeah, no, I don't need to worry about that. Okay, so has that explained it? Volumes are preferred mechanism for persisting data generated by Docker containers, whilst bind mounts are dependent on the directory structure. Volumes are completely managed by, okay, so which is a managed the second is a Docker volume, which is a managed mount point in Docker that allows the attachment. I don't know if this is the right word. Attachment from multiple containers. I don't know. That's a bit wordy. I don't like it, to be honest. Okay. The second. There are two types of... No, that's wrong. There's two types of Docker volumes. That doesn't make any sense. There's two types of volume mounts in Docker. The first is a bind mount, which is a direct mount from the host machine. Which is a direct mount from the host machine's directory structure to a mount point inside the container. Docker bind mount. Okay, the first is a Docker bind mount. Let's get rid of that for a sec. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is a direct mount. Which is a direct path from the host machine's. Which is a. That doesn't make any sense. First is a Docker bind mount, which is a direct, which is a mount, which is a. From the host's directory structure let's just see what else you've got for me there. The first is a mount, which is a mount from the host's directory structure. Is a path. Here we go. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is a path from the host directory structure to a mount point inside the container. That makes more sense. The second is a Docker volume, which is a managed mount point in Docker that allows the attachment from. I don't like that. The second is a Docker volume, which is a managed mount point. The second is a Docker volume, which is a managed mount point in Docker. So there's too many Dockers going on here. The second is a Docker volume. Stop. Right. This is a managed mount point. This is a managed mount point in Docker, which allows the attachment from multiple containers. Okay. From the host machine's directory structure. All right. Okay. So to create bind mounts. To create a bind mount, you're doing -v. So, okay, to create a bind mount, use the -v argument when running a container. This argument has two parts: split or separated by a colon. Okay. The first part is the host, the the first part is the path of the the first part is the path of the host of the directory structure. Directory structure on the host machine. Okay, full stop. Split by okay. An example. Okay. Okay, fine. The first part is the path. Left-hand side of the has the directory structure of the host machine. The right-hand side of the is the mount point in the container. All right, for example, okay, so to mount the home directory into a container, run the following. So, for instance, home. Can't even spell my own name, and then it would be something like I don't know, data. I'm making this all up now, aren't I? So it'll be like docker run -it -v not b, and then Ubuntu. I don't know why I keep picking on Ubuntu. I can't even spell it. And then going in as bash. And we'll put in a little shebang there. Boom. No, that's the wrong symbol. Right. To mount the home directory into a container, run the to mount the home directory into the data into a new directory called data on the container, run the following. Okay. I think I need to explain this a little bit better. So to create a bind mount, use the -v argument when running a container. This argument has two parts separated by a colon symbol. And I guess I could just put in a thing here, so -v. So we've got host dir colon container dir. There we go. Boom. The left-hand side of the colon has the directory structure, or has the directory structure of, or is the, I should say, is the directory structure, because it's not, is the directory structure of the host machine, from the host machine. The right-hand side of the colon is the mount point inside the container. The mount point to be created. No, is the mount point inside the container? Well, it is, but you create the mount point. So is the mount point in the container, of the container. There we go. To mount the home directory, to mount the host machine's home directory into a new directory called data on the container, run the following. What's this? Yeah, Discord has finally woken up that I'm on live. There are two types. Sometimes the Discord bot takes ages for it to run. There are two types of volume mounts in Docker. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is the path from the host machine's directory structure to a mount point inside the container. From the host main, the first is a Docker bind mount. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is the path from the host machine's. I want to say of. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is a path from the host machine's directory structure to a mount point inside the container. Okay. The second is a Docker. I'll probably have to read this like 20 times for it to make sense in my head. Or maybe I've just read it more than 20 times, and therefore I'm overanalyzing it. Let's talk about Docker volumes, because these are different. Okay, so essentially, to create a Docker volume, essentially it's the same deal, but you don't obviously supply a path. To create a Docker volume, when running, it's technically called a named volume. This is a managed mount point in Docker, which allows the attachment from multiple. Yeah, fine. All right. To create a Docker volume, a Docker named volume, when running a container, use the -v argument like the bind mount, example, but instead of supplying a path, supply a path from the host machine, pass a name of the volume that you wish to create. To create a volume, a Docker volume, called, just to do it the same as the example, data, to create a Docker volume called data, which is mounted to the container. So that should be container directory. Yeah, to create a Docker volume called data, which is mounted to the container in at the path data. I think what I'll do is I'll give the similar example as I've done above. Come on. So this would be volume name container directory. So to create a Docker volume called data, which is mounted to the container at path data, bash. So it would be docker run -it, I don't know, whatever, the data. Okay. All right. How to attach volumes to from another container. Actually, what you could do under here is okay. So you could give this a name. So let's do docker run test1. Okay, to attach the same volume, the same data volume, to attach the same data volume, but to another container at a different mount point. Okay, so I'm not explaining that at all very well, but test2, and this is going to be data backup or something. No, that's a really bad thing to do. Let's call this web root or something. I don't know. Or data is just such a generic word. Store, whatever. Or lib, or no, not lib. Data store. There we go. Okay, so a named Docker volume can also be attached to. I just can't spell. Attached to another container at a different mount point. The following example attaches the same data Docker volume to a new container called test2. The Docker volume is mounted at the path data store in the container. Boom. Okay, that's that. Off. No, wrong buttons. Pressing wrong buttons. Cool. Right. Then there's this Docker from thing, and then there's the inspection. All right. Right. So, how to attach volumes from another container? So we would use volumes from. Volumes from. All right. Is it volumes from? I never remember. Docker run help. I think it is. In your own time. volumes from mounts volumes from a specified container. Okay, to mount volumes from another container. To mount volumes that are attached to another container, from pass the volumes from to mount volumes that are attached from another from other containers, because you can do more than one. Pass the volumes from argument when creating a container. So we could do we could say the above command could be simplified by running the following. Let's just copy that, paste that in there. Let's grab that, take that out, pass that in. That is then test 1. Volumes from test 1. And I can't spell simplified. Amplified. The above command can be simplified by running the following. By including the by replacing the -v argument with the volumes from argument. Please note that both the Docker volume names and the mount points will be, and the paths to the mount points inside the container will be copied. Okay, cool. Right, there we go. Next is to inspect the volume. So, to inspect the volumes, the mounts, I should say, of a container, run the following command, and that is bash docker inspect container name or ID, doesn't matter. To inspect the mounts of a container, run the following command, and look for the mounts section in the JSON output. There is another one. I have unfortunately removed that link, haven't I? There was another one, wasn't there? Maybe I've gone too far. Where? Aha! Here we go. Docker volume inspect backup. Okay, so there we go. Cool. So, all right. To inspect the mounts of our container, run the following command and look for the mounts section in the JSON output. To inspect the mounts. To inspect a volume, run the following. Bash. Okay, what are we doing? Docker volume. Okay, Docker volume, and then inspect. Inspector gadget. And then that's the, I can't even spell, inspect. And then that is the volume name. Okay, so then the output show it. Okay, so this will show the, what we got, the name of the volume, the driver, and the mount point of the container. Right, let's have a little look and see. Let's take it from the top. That was a big piece of documentation there. Types of Docker volumes. There are two types of volume mounts. There are two types of volume mounts. No. There are two types of volumes in Docker, not mounts. Right, there are two types of volumes in Docker. The first is a Docker bind mount, which is a path from the host machine's directory structure to a mount point inside the container. The first is Docker bind mount, which is a path from the host machine's directory structure to a mount point inside the container. The second is a Docker named volume. This is a managed mount point in Docker, which allows the attachment from multiple containers. All right, so how to create a bind mount, how to create a bind mounts. Come on. I know I'm dyslexic, but that's just ridiculous. How to create a bind mount. To create a bind mount, use the -v argument when running a container. This argument has two parts separated by a colon. And then I've gone straight into the example. That's bad. This example has two parts. For example. Oh, I know what's wrong. I've got two things in there. I should have three. There we go. Right, that might look a bit better now. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's better. -v, volume name, and the container directory. To create a Docker volume called data, which is mounted... Oh, that sounded really American. Data. To create a Docker volume called data, which is mounted to the container at the path data, run the following. Docker volume name test1 it v data ubuntu bash. A named Docker volume can also be attached to another container at a different mount point. That should be at a different mount point, not a different mount. At a different mount point. Where is this? A named volume, Docker volume, can also be attached to another container at a different mount point. Yeah. Here we go. So, how to inspect the Docker... Oh, I've gone too far ahead. A named Docker volume can also be attached to another Docker container at a different mount point. The following example attaches the same data Docker volume to a new container called test2. The Docker volume is mounted at the path data store in the container. Docker run name test2 itv data store Ubuntu bash. Yeah, that's fine. How to attach volumes from another container. To mount volumes that are attached from another container's pass. What? What? To mount volumes that are attached from other container. Oh, to mount volumes that are attached from other containers. Yes, because you can have more than one. Pass the volumes from argument when creating a container. The above command could be simplified by replacing the -v argument with the volumes from argument. Please note that both the Docker volume, that needs to be uppercase, Docker volume name and the path to the mount points inside the container will be copied. So I need to change some things. Please note that both the Docker volume name and the path to the mount point inside the container will be copied. Yes. I rarely use that, to be fair. The volumes from. I rarely use it. I don't actually think I've used it in production, in the wild. I kind of like to see all the arguments. I see the volumes from like magic, and I don't like magic when it comes to programming. I rather just explicitly see what's going on, because I would need to run the inspect command to actually see the various mount points before I ran the Docker volume, because of the volumes from argument. But anyway, to mount the volumes that are attached from another container, from other containers, pass the volumes from argument when creating a new container. The above command could be simplified by replacing the -v argument with the volumes from argument. Please note that both the Docker volume name, both the name of the Docker volume and the path and the original that's more explicit, isn't it? The original mount point inside the container will be copied. Yeah, cool. All right. Will be copied. Okay. Docker run --name test2 it volumes from test1 Ubuntu bash. I mean, reading it makes sense. So you're saying I'm going to create a container called test2, going to run it with it, and we're going to use the volumes from test1. It's going to have an image of Ubuntu, and we're going to run bash. So, I mean, it does make sense, but for me to run this command, I would first need to know what the mount points of test1 are. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not an easy thing to debug that unless you just knew off the top of your head what the volumes from test1 would be. Anyway, how to inspect the volume configuration. To inspect the mounts of a container, run the following command and look for tell it's getting late in the day. To inspect the mounts of a container, run the following command and look for the mount section in the JSON output. Now, we're not going to give the JSON output. What have I done there? I've screwed up the I've only given 2 backticks. That's why. Have I screwed this up as well? No, that's fine. Alright, so to inspect the mounts of a container, run the following command and look for the mount section in the JSON output. So docker inspect container name or ID. To inspect the volume, I'm going to say to inspect the configuration the configuration, because that's what it is. Configuration of a Docker volume. Cannot spell. Good. Of a Docker blah 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 blah. Okay, to inspect the configuration of a Docker volume, run the following: Docker volume inspect the volume name. This will show the name of the volume, the driver, and the mount point inside of the container. There we go. And I'm going to also add some more freebies into this as well, because there's a few things that so to list the Docker volume, to list Docker volumes. Okay, to list all the Docker volumes on the host machine. Run the following. So this is bash. No, this is Docker volume list. And then another one I'll give for free is to create a Docker volume without attaching to a container. To create a Docker volume, without creating or running a Docker container, run the following. And it's very straightforward. Docker volume create, and then volume name. Cool. I am gonna put these up here. I think kind of makes sense. Cool. Let's just see how that formats. Yeah, good. It's a big topic, this volumes and stuff. I am gonna have to shoot because I am gonna make my dinner and it's 7:30 already. Hey, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Sorry for not paying much attention to the chat, but I've just been cracking on with the documentation. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get Parallels running properly on this Mac Mini. So next week we should hopefully be able to test the actual course, the PHP course, the new one, and I'm fingers crossed be able to do that next Tuesday. So this weekend, that's one of the many things that I'm going to be doing with How to Code Well this weekend, is to get that set up, and then hopefully we'll have something to do on Tuesday. We have plenty of these code notes to do. All of these, by the way, are open source. In fact, I'm going to just push them up now. So let's just come out of that for a sec. Bear with me a minute whilst I find the right... I could just do this through the terminal, couldn't I? Which is there. So git status, let's have a look at what we've done. We've done 8, 9, and 10. So git commit -am, adding lessons 8, 9, and 9 and 10. Off it goes. Git push. good stuff. I don't know why I'm in the branch Docker for Beginners search. I think it was specifically on the search lesson, but I've just used this branch. Yeah, so that should now. I wonder if I can submit this as a PR to myself. GitHub. Oh, I gotta sign in. Ugh. And find my phone. Hold on. This is where it all goes horribly wrong. Right. I'm not showing this on screen. No, good. Here we go. Pass in my credentials. No, that didn't work. There we go. Right, code notes. Here we go. Pull requests. Oh, no. Did that not go up? Let's have a look at the branches. What branches do I have? Ah, here we go. It's open. Okay, so 5 commits ahead of master, of main, sorry. That's what we've just put in, 8, 0, and 10. Let's just have a look at the files that have been changed. 2, 3, a lot of them actually. They're all good. They're all good because I was going through them yesterday evening. Cool. So I'm going to merge these in. I'm going to review is required. Can I merge the pull request? I am the administrator, so I can do that. Okay, I'm going to delete the branch because the branch now doesn't relate to the documentation. Cool. So that's now in master or main or whatever I've called the branch name. So if we then go to git checkout, I think it's main. Yeah. Bring that down. There we go. We've got them all. Yeah. Cool. Now these code notes are actually going to go inside the howtocodewell.net site. So, you know, it's all good stuff that I'm doing here. All of this is worthwhile. Once this course is complete, we can then put this up on the site. So, right, I'm going to grab some food, and I'll speak to everybody soon. Hello, does Docker work on the M1 chip? Yes, it does. It certainly does. It does. I have a Mac Mini. Sorry, I have got a MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro Max, and it is working fine. It's actually quite fast, to be honest. There's some certain things that I've had to do, like for instance, there's certain images that don't work. The MySQL is one of them, so I've had to switch the howtocodewell.net site to use MariaDB rather than MySQL. So there's that. But you know, I haven't actually had any headaches with it at all, to be honest. So I think it's safe to use. I do admit, though, the caveat is, so I've got a M1 for my personal use, and I've got the Intel Apple MacBook Pro for work, because there are certain images, of course, that for work purposes that I need to use on Intel-based things. So it's still early days, but it's far better than it was. Anyway, I need to shoot off. Speak to you all soon. Take care. Happy coding, and I'll see you on Thursday for the podcast. Take care all. Bye bye.